My name is Walter Kaczynski. Everyone calls me Walt, and at 58, I thought the worst Tuesday of my life had already come and gone the year my wife Donna passed. Then one frozen morning in Thunder Bay, I walked into the credit union to pull $200 for my insulin, and the woman behind the counter looked up, glanced at her screen twice, and said, "Walt, can you step into the back office with me for a minute?" The account that was supposed to hold just over $310. My severance from the mill, Donna's life insurance, the equity from the house we sold in Kakabeka Falls, had $11.40 left in it, and the only other person with signing authority on that account was my own son. I need to back up, because none of it makes sense unless you understand how we got there. My son's name is Marcus, 31 years old, my only boy, my late wife's pride before anything else was. He'd moved out to Calgary for the oil and gas work 8 years back, came home maybe twice a year, always with some new title, project coordinator, then operations lead, then something with senior in front of it that I never fully understood. He drove a truck that cost more than my first house. He called on my birthday and at Christmas, and every single time he called Donna by name, even though she'd been gone 3 years, like he hadn't quite caught up to it yet. That used to break my heart a little. My daughter, Jenny, was the one who never left. 28, worked the front desk at the medical clinic on Memorial Avenue, lived 12 minutes from me in a rented duplex with her boy, my grandson Eli. After the second stroke scare 2 winters back, it was Jenny who started showing up every morning before her shift, dropping off my pills, checking my blood sugar log, sitting with me through the bad nights when my chest felt tight and I was too proud to call an ambulance. She never once made it feel like charity. She'd just walk in, put the kettle on, and say, "Morning, old man, you eat yet?" The family never saw it that way, though. To my sister Carol and the rest of the Kaczynski side, Marcus was the success story. The boy who'd made it out of Thunder Bay, who'd done something with himself. Jenny was the one who never left, the one people talked about in that soft, pitying voice, like staying home to take care of your widowed father was something to apologize for. It used to eat at me, that talk, because I knew the truth even if I never said it out loud at the dinner table. Jenny was the one who showed up. Marcus was the one who called. 2 years ago, after my second hospital stay, Marcus flew home for a weekend and sat me down at my own kitchen table. Said it made sense, with everything going on with my health, for him to be added to the account. "Just in case something happens, and you can't get to the bank yourself, Dad, I can handle the bill pay, the RRSP transfers, all that paperwork you hate." I remember being grateful, genuinely, my boy, flying all the way from Calgary on his own dime, taking time he didn't have to look after his old man's finances. "Leave the money side to me," he'd said, patting my hand the way you'd reassure a worried child. "You focus on getting better. Let Jenny worry about your pills, I'll worry about the rest." God help me, I believed him. That morning at the credit union started like every other one since Donna died. Up before 6, the house too quiet without her radio, playing in the kitchen, my coffee strong enough to embarrass a Tim Hortons. Jenny had come by at 7 like always, dropped off groceries, sorted my pills into the little weekly organizer with the days printed on the lid. "You take your morning dose yet, Dad? Waiting on you to remind me, same as always." She smiled, and even at 28 she still had her mother's smile, the one that made the corners of her eyes crease just so. "My debit card got declined at the pharmacy yesterday," I told her. "Probably the chip's gone again. I'll just run down to the branch and pull some cash for the insulin up. She offered to drive me. I told her I needed the air, which was mostly true and mostly stubbornness. I grabbed my parka and my bank book off the counter and walked the 8 blocks myself. I had no idea what I was walking into. The branch was nearly empty, just me, a young guy depositing a check, and Priya behind the counter. I'd banked with her for going on 12 years, if she'd opened Donna's fry for us back when Donna was still alive to sign it herself. "Morning, Walt," she said. "What can I do for you?" I told her I needed $200 out of the main account. She typed, stopped, typed again, slower this time, and her face did something I'd never seen it do in 12 years of small talk over that counter. "Walt," she said quietly, "I think we should step into the back office." She didn't tell me there'd been a mistake. She printed out 3 pages, still warm from the machine, and slid them across the little round table in the back room. Row after row of e-transfers and wire transfers, going back 4 months. 2,000 here, 5 here, then 11, then 22. And next to every single one the same recipient name, Marcus David Kaczynski, my son. Priya watched my face the way you watch someone you're afraid might fall. Walt, she said, gentle as she could manage. Do you recognize any of these? Did I recognize them? My own boy's name, over and over, bleeding my account dry, $310,000 at a time. Over 4 months I'd spent thinking he was just busy with work, just calling less because Calgary was a long way from Thunder Bay, and the time difference made it hard. I drove no, I walked, because I'd walked there. I walked home with those printouts folded inside my coat, like they might catch fire if anyone saw them. At my kitchen table I did the arithmetic an old man shouldn't have to do. That account wasn't extra money. It was the cardiologist's co-pays the provincial plan didn't cover. It was the new furnace I'd been putting off. It was the difference between staying in the house Donna and I bought in 1989 and ending up in a long-term care bed 2 hours away in Nipigon, the only place with an opening, sharing a room with a stranger, and being called dear by a 19-year-old PSW who didn't have time to learn my first name. I called Marcus, straight to voicemail, called again, voicemail. I texted slow, one finger at a time the way Jenny taught me. Call me, it's about my account, it's important. Nothing came back for 6 hours. Then it wasn't even Marcus, it was my sister Carol. Walt, sweetheart, heard you've been having some trouble with your finances. Marcus is worried sick about you. Let us know if there's anything we can do. I read it 3 times. Marcus is worried sick about me. I set the phone face down on the table next to the percolator Donna used to use every Sunday. And I stared at the calendar on the wall, still turned to the month she died on, because I'd never had it in me to flip the page. That evening, after Jenny went home, I went looking through Donna's old roll-top desk in the spare room. She kept everything in there. Every tax slip, every greeting card, the warranty card for a toaster we'd thrown out a decade ago. Near the bottom drawer, underneath a stack of Christmas cards, I found an envelope that didn't look old at all. Crisp, white, a return address I recognized, Halloran and Vance, barristers and solicitors, the firm that had handled Donna's will. Postmarked 3 months back, addressed to me, unopened. Marcus had been the one collecting my mail whenever he visited. So you don't have to fuss with it, Dad. And somehow this letter had ended up filed away in his mother's desk instead of in my hands. I didn't open it that night. I told myself I was tired. The truth is, I was scared of what it would say. By morning, the envelope was still sealed on the kitchen table. I made a decision over my coffee. I wasn't going to storm anywhere or start screaming about thieves at Thanksgiving. If I came at this loud and confused, Marcus would spin it, make me out to be a forgetful old diabetic who couldn't track his own bank book. He'd already started, with that text to Carol. So I spread the printouts out and read every line slow, with my readers on words like joint tenancy and right of survivorship swimming in front of me like a language I'd left for my son to handle, like a fool. There was one more thing that shamed me to admit. Marcus had built this so it could fall on Jenny if anyone looked too close. Because the account had her name on the contact card too, from years back when she used to drop off deposits for me before her shift. Jenny wasn't on the account legally, never had been, never asked to be. But if anyone went digging without knowing the difference, her name was right there in the file, easy to point at. Jenny, who never once asked me for $1 in her life. Jenny, who told me more than once, "Dad, you should really get someone independent to look over those statements." And I'd waved her off because Marcus had it handled, I'd said. I didn't want a war with my own son. I just wanted the truth. Priya met me on her lunch break 2 days later, in that same back office, and laid the statements between us like a doctor laying out an x-ray. "I shouldn't be giving you legal advice," she said, "but I can walk you through what's on the page." When Marcus had been added 2 years back, she explained, he hadn't gone on as a power of attorney or an authorized user. He'd gone on as joint owner with right of survivorship, same as a spouse would, full legal access, no permission required. "It's my severance," I said. "My wife's insurance money. Doesn't matter legally," she said, careful with every word. "Once he's a joint owner, half that account is his on paper. He can move any amount, anytime. He doesn't need your sign-off. A man works 31 years at the mill, buries his wife, and his own son can empty the account and the law just shrugs." "He didn't steal anything," I said slowly. On paper, Priya agreed, and she wouldn't quite look at me when she said it. It was Carol who finally said the rest of it out loud 3 days later over the phone, all sugar and concern. "Walt, I have to ask you something. Marcus told us about the account, about the money being gone." My stomach dropped. "What did Marcus tell you, Carol?" "That it's mostly gone." "And that," she paused, The kind of pause people take when they're enjoying themselves more than they'll admit. That Jenny's been the one handling your finances. That she's had access this whole time, and Marcus only just found out, and he's devastated, Walt, he really is. For a second, I couldn't get a breath in. He hadn't just taken the money. He'd built a story and handed the blame to his own sister, to Jenny, the one who'd never touched a cent of mine, the one who showed up every single morning, rain or shine, while he was 18 hours away in Calgary, calling twice a year. Jenny hasn't touched my money, I told Carol, and I was proud of how level my voice came out. Jenny isn't even on that account. Marcus is. A silence. Then gentle, like she was humoring a confused old man. Oh, Walt, of course you'd defend Jenny. You always have. That was the moment I understood the truth on its own wasn't going to be enough. I was going to have to prove it, in front of everyone who mattered, or my daughter was going to wear this for the rest of her life in a town where everybody knew everybody's business. Marcus finally called back that night, 4 days of silence broken by his name lighting up my screen at 9 o'clock. Dad. Hey. I hear you've been worked up about something. Working myself up. I kept my voice steady. Marcus, the account's empty. My account. I know, it's a mess. The bank's been useless about it. A long sigh, performed just for me. Look, Dad, you really don't need to be digging into all this. It's complicated, and it's not good for your blood pressure. I'm not digging. I'm reading the statements. A pause. The warmth in his voice cooled by a few degrees. Your name's on every transfer too, Dad. Every single one. I'm a joint owner, he said. I have every right to manage that account. You don't understand how any of this works. Then explain it to me. Where did $310,000 go? He didn't answer that. Instead, his voice dropped low, almost gentle, which was somehow worse than if he'd shouted. You want to be careful making accusations, Dad. At your age, with your sugar the way it's been, people start wondering if you're still all there. Jenny included. You don't want anyone thinking you can't manage on your own anymore. You know what that means. There it was. Not my son, a threat wearing my son's voice. And the thing he was threatening me with was Nipagon, and the shared room, and the 19-year-old who'd call me dear. I'm not making anything up, Marcus. I'm reading the statements. Get some sleep, Dad. We'll talk when you're thinking straight. The line went dead. I stood there in my dark kitchen with the phone still warm in my hand, and something in me went cold and certain. I'd crossed a line I couldn't walk back from. The only way through now was forward. Halloran and Vance was a modest office above the optical shop on Memorial Avenue, a coffee maker older than my truck sitting on the filing cabinet. Don Vance was a thin man near my own age, reading glasses pushed up into gray hair, a handshake gentler than I expected from a lawyer. Walt Kaczynski, he said, settling behind his desk. I've been trying to reach you for months. I told him about the letter, the drawer, the 4 months of transfers. He listened without interrupting, fingers laced together the whole time. When I finished, he sat quiet for a moment. I can't tell you everything your late wife and I discussed, he said finally. Privilege survives her passing. You understand that? My wife? That stopped me cold. What's Donna got to do with any of this? He took his glasses off and folded them slowly. Before she passed, Donna came to see me. More than once. She was worried, Walt. About Marcus. About how he handled money even back then. The truck he couldn't really afford, the credit cards. And about putting him on that account with you. My chest went tight. Donna never said a word to me about any of that. She didn't want to turn you against your own son over a feeling, he said gently. So she did some quiet things instead, to protect you while she still could. Donna. 29 years of marriage, and she'd been guarding my back even from the other side of it. Protect me how? He smiled but wouldn't answer. That part isn't mine to tell yet, it's hers. Give me a few days to put it together properly. I went back to the credit union and asked them to freeze the account outright. The branch manager was polite and immovable. It's a joint account, Mr. Kaczynski. Either owner can access it freely. We can't lock your son out without a court order. A court order. The words sat in my mouth like a stone I couldn't swallow. I tried my brother-in-law Pete next, asked him to just sit and look at the statements with me, man to man. He hemmed and hawed over the phone. Walt, I don't want to get stuck in the middle of this. Marcus says you've been confused lately, that this whole thing's got you all worked up, and Jenny's not helping. Pete, his name is on every single line. I'm sure there's an explanation, he said. There usually is. And just like that, another door closed quietly in my face. Meanwhile, the bills kept coming whether my family believed me or not. The pharmacy needed payment on the new insulin pens. The hydro bill sat unopened on the counter for 2 weeks because I was afraid to see the number. I covered what I could out of the little I had left in checkwing, watching that number shrink too, doing the grim math of how many months an old diabetic with a bad heart could stretch $11.40 and a pension check. Worst of all, I watched it land on Jenny. People at the clinic started being short with her. Her own Aunt Carol stopped calling. She came by one evening with red eyes and asked me straight out, "Dad, did Marcus tell people I took your money?" I couldn't lie to my own daughter's face. When I told her the truth, she didn't scream or cry right away. She just took my hand across the kitchen table and said, "Then we clear it up, together." That steadied me more than I can put into words. I wasn't fighting this alone anymore, even if I still didn't have a single piece of proof the rest of the family would believe. If you've ever handed something over to a child you trusted with your whole chest, and felt the ground shift under you anyway, you know the kind of cold that settles in your stomach in a credit union parking lot in February. If this is hitting close to home, go ahead and hit subscribe, because you've got no idea yet how this one turns. And tell me down in the comments, has anyone in your own family ever made you choose a side you shouldn't have had to choose? The call that changed everything came from my son-in-law-to-be, in a manner of speaking. From Tyler, Marcus's fiance's brother, of all people, a kid I'd met maybe twice at family barbecues. In 9 years, I'd never once had Tyler call me directly, so when his name came up on my screen, I almost didn't pick up. "Mr. Kaczynski." His voice was tight, nervous. "I need you to know something, and Marcus would kill me if he knew I was calling." "Go ahead, son." A long breath on the other end. Marcus and Brittany put a deposit on a house in the Calgary Southeast back in the fall. Big place, way more than they could really swing on their salaries. Then he lost his job in November. The layoffs at the plant, you probably saw it on the news, and they didn't tell anybody. They've been scrambling to cover the mortgage on the new place, plus their old condo, plus Brittany's car, plus Mr. Kaczynski. I think your money's the only thing that's been keeping them afloat since Christmas. The picture snapped into focus all at once. My son wasn't a greedy man helping himself for sport. He was drowning quietly, behind a truck that cost more than my house, and a fiancée he didn't want finding out he'd been laid off. The new house, the title he still introduced himself with at family gatherings. The calls on my birthday. All of it had been a man holding his breath underwater, and my account had been the only air left in the room. It didn't make what he'd done right. Nothing made it right. He'd robbed his own father and let his sister take the blame for it. But it made him human, somehow, and that was worse in its own way than if he'd just been cruel for the sake of it. 2 days after that call, the invitations went out. Marcus was throwing me a 60th birthday dinner. Early, technically, since I wasn't 60 for another year and a half, but he called it a celebration of everything Dad's been through this year. He'd booked the private room at the Prince Arthur Waterfront Hotel, the nicest dining room in Thunder Bay, the kind of place people book for 40th anniversaries. He'd invited everyone. Carol, Pete, cousins, old guys from the mill I hadn't seen in years, half of our old church congregation. I found out about it the way I found out everything now. Secondhand. Carol mentioned it on the phone, assuming I already knew. "Isn't it lovely, Walt? Marcus is going all out for his dad. A devoted son, throwing a lavish dinner with money he couldn't account for, in front of every single person whose opinion mattered in this town." I understood exactly what it was, a stage. A chance for Marcus to stand up in front of everyone and cement the story he'd already started. The worried, generous son, and somewhere off to the side, the daughter nobody could quite trust around an old man's money anymore. That night Marcus called, smooth as he'd been since he was a teenager talking his way out of a speeding ticket. "Dad, about the dinner, I think it'd be best if Jenny sat this one out. She's been so worked up lately, I don't want a scene in front of everybody." "It's my birthday dinner," I said. "Jenny's coming." "Dad, please. People are already concerned about your judgment. Don't make it harder on yourself." He'd weaponized my own diagnosis against me, my own age, the very thing he should have been protecting. After he hung up, I sat a long while at Donna's desk in the lamplight. Then I called Don Vance and told him everything. About the dinner, about the hotel, about all of it. He was quiet a moment on the other end. "Walt," he said finally, "I'll have everything ready by then, and if you'll allow it, I'd like to be in the room myself when the time comes." The next morning, Jenny drove me to Don's office. I'd told her everything by then. The joint account, the law, Marcus, the lies he'd spread. She cried once in the truck on the way over, then squared her shoulders the way her mother used to and said, Okay, Dad, what do we do? Don met us at the door himself, poured us coffee from that ancient machine, then opened a thick leather folder on his desk and laid both hands flat on top of it, almost reverent. Your wife was a careful woman, Walt, he said. Smarter than the two of us put together. Don't I know it? I said. About 8 months before she passed, Donna came to see me. She'd been watching Marcus handle money for years, and it worried her sick. She told me, and I'm quoting her, Walt, word for word, Don, I won't be around to keep an eye on the hen house. Lock the door for me. I had to look away out the window for a second. I could hear her saying exactly that in exactly that voice. So we did some things, Don said quietly. They've been sitting in a drawer, waiting in case they were ever needed. He looked up at me, steady. They're needed now. On the day, he said, in front of everyone. Your wife was very clear that's how she wanted it done. Out in the open, where nobody could whisper it away after the fact. He glanced over at Jenny. She was also very clear that Jenny should be standing right next to you when it happened. The Prince Arthur ballroom was lit up that evening, white tablecloths, a string quartet hired for the occasion, a banner across the back wall reading Happy Birthday Dad in gold script. Marcus had spared nothing. 40-some people filled the private room. Aunts, uncles, cousins, men I used to work the line with at the mill, faces from St. Andrew's Presbyterian I hadn't seen in years, all dressed up and smiling under the chandeliers. I came in with Jenny on my arm. The conversation didn't stop exactly, but it stumbled. I felt it ripple across the room, that soft hiss of whispers behind cupped hands, heads turning toward Jenny and away again just as fast. Marcus crossed the floor fast when he saw us, his smile bright, his eyes hard underneath it. Dad, he kissed my cheek. You look great. Then low, just for me, I asked you to leave Jenny home. She's my daughter, I said quietly. Both of you are mine. She's coming in with me. He straightened up, recalculating fast behind his eyes. Then the public smile snapped back into place. Everybody made it, he announced to the room. Wonderful. Family's everything, isn't it? Glasses raised, the quartet kept playing. Jenny settled me at the head table and sat close beside me. Carol gave her a thin, pitying smile from across the room. In the back corner, nearly hidden by a server's station, sat a thin old man in a gray suit with a leather folder resting on his lap. Don, he caught my eye and gave the smallest nod. Steady, Dad, Jenny murmured. Wait for it. Marcus tapped a fork against his glass and stepped to the front of the room. Champagne raised high, the room quieted. Thank you all for coming, he began. 60 years, can you believe it? My dad's given this family everything. Warm murmurs. Someone said, hear, hear. And family, he went on, his voice swelling, means stepping up. It means looking after our parents when their judgment isn't what it used to be, especially with money. He let that hang in the air a beat. It hasn't been an easy year. Some of you know there have been concerns about Dad's accounts, about someone close to him who hasn't had his best interests at heart. A pause, heavy and deliberate. I've tried to handle it quietly, to protect this family, but I think it's time we were honest about who's been taking advantage of him. The whispers started, and nearly every head in that room turned, slow and certain, toward Jenny. I felt her go rigid beside me, her hand finding mine under the tablecloth and gripping it hard. I stood up. It took me a moment. My knees aren't what they used to be, and Jenny rose to steady my elbow. The room froze. Marcus's smile flickered, just for an instant, before he caught it. Dad, he said smoothly, sit down, this isn't the time. You're right about one thing, Marcus, I said, and my voice came out steadier than I felt inside. Someone close to me took my money, and I think it's high time this whole family knew exactly who, in black and white. I nodded toward the back of the room. Don Vance stood and walked forward with the leather folder in his hands. Marcus's eyes locked on it, and the color drained right out of his face. Don set a stack of pages on the white tablecloth, where everyone could see. My name is Don Vance, he said. I've been this family's lawyer for going on 30 years. With Walt's permission, I'm going to read from his bank statements. You're welcome to pass them around after. This is ridiculous, Marcus said. Dad's confused. Nobody needs. October 14th, Don read calm as a Sunday sermon. E-transfer out, $11,000. Recipient Marcus David Kosinski. The room went very still. November 2nd, 19,000. November 22nd, 26,000. He turned a page. December 9th, 31,000. Every name landed like a stone dropped in still water. I watched it move across their faces. Confusion first, then doubt, then something colder. Carol's hand rose to her mouth. It's a joint account, Marcus said, his voice climbing. I'm a co-owner. This is completely legal. I had every right. Nobody said it was illegal, Marcus. I said quietly. The way Donna used to when she meant business. I'm saying it happened. These aren't accusations. These are dates and dollar figures. Read them yourselves. The folder slid down the table, hand to hand, and I watched the story Marcus had spent 4 months building come apart line by line in front of 40 witnesses. You told them it was Jenny, I said. You told this whole family your sister was robbing me while your name sat on every single transfer. You don't understand the situation, Dad. Then explain it, said Pete, grim-faced, holding a page in both hands. Explain this, Marcus. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Into that silence, Don said, There's more, quite a bit more. He drew out a second set of papers, older, softened with handling. Some of you knew Donna well, he said, and the room quieted at her name. 8 months before she passed, she came to my office. She was sharp as a tack that day, and she was worried about exactly this situation. She instructed me to do 2 things and to keep them sealed until they were needed. Marcus had gone gray. Mom, what did Mom do? First, Don said, on Donna's instruction, we drew up a revocation. 6 weeks before she passed, Marcus's status as joint owner of that account was legally revoked. He was removed. The bank was formally notified. A gasp somewhere in the room. Which means every withdrawal I just read out, everyone dated this fall and winter, long after that revocation, was made by someone with no legal right to that account whatsoever. That isn't a family disagreement anymore. That's unauthorized access to funds. The Crown can address that if it comes to it. Second, Don went on, your mother placed the proceeds from the house sale and a care reserve for your father into a protected trust, beyond either of your signatures, and she named a trustee. The person she chose to guard her husband's care should the day ever come. He looked over at Jenny. She named Jenny. 40 heads swung toward my daughter. Jenny froze beside me, the shock plain on her face. She hadn't known either, I could see it. She turned to her brother across the room, and when she finally spoke, her voice came out soft and steady. Mom knew, Marcus, she said. She knew all along. For a long moment, Marcus just stood there with the champagne flute still in his hand, and then his composure cracked all at once, like ice on Lake Superior going out in the spring. You don't understand, he said, and all the polish had gone out of his voice. I was going to put it back. Every dollar. The layoff? I didn't tell anyone. I couldn't, not with the house and Brittany and... You let them think it was your sister, Carol said, and her face had gone hard. You sat in my kitchen and told me Jenny was robbing her own father. I panicked, he said, turning to the room, pleading now. You don't know what it's like to lose everything and still have to keep smiling at your own engagement party. So you took it from him, Pete said, nodding toward me. From your 60-year-old father with a bad heart who needs that money to live. Stop, I said, and it came out louder than I'd managed in years. The room went silent. Your mother didn't set this up to make you look bad, Marcus. She set it up to protect me, from you, and she was right to. Tyler, who'd come in late with Brittany, stood frozen by the door, his face the color of ash. He didn't say a single word in his future brother-in-law's defense. I could have let my son drown right there. Part of me wanted to, God forgive me. But Donna's voice was in my head, clear as if she were standing next to me, and that wasn't the man she'd raised. You're still my son, Marcus, I said. I won't put you in front of a judge if there's another way. But you'll pay back every cent of it through Don's office, on paper, and you'll never touch my money or your sister's name again as long as you live. The dinner was over after that. Nobody said as much, but everybody knew. The quartet kept playing through the wall, absurd now, like music at the wrong funeral. Marcus set down his glass, his hand shaking. He looked around the room one last time for an ally and found none. Then he walked out, Brittany a few steps behind him, and the door of the Prince Arthur swung shut. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Then I did something I should have done years earlier. I gripped the edge of the table, steadied myself on Jenny's shoulder, and stood as tall as my old back would let me, so the whole room had to look at me. I want to say something about my daughter, I said. The room held its breath. For 2 years, this girl has driven me to every appointment, checked my blood sugar in the middle of the night when she had work in 5 hours, sat with me so I wasn't alone in that house after her mother died. My voice wavered and held. She did it while half of you called her the one who never made anything of herself. I looked around the room, slow and deliberate. She made everything of herself. You all just weren't looking in the right direction. Jenny was crying, so was I. I won't pretend otherwise. Carol was crying too. Pete came over and put a heavy hand on Jenny's shoulder. We owe you an apology, kid, he said gruffly. Every single one of us. Don Vance moved fast in the weeks after. He filed an emergency motion, and within 10 days a judge froze what remained of anything Marcus could still reach. The protected trust was already locked tight. That had been Donna's doing, and it held exactly as she'd planned. Whatever Marcus still had, the courts now had their hand on it. We sat in Don's office, Jenny and I, while he laid the options out on his old wooden desk. You could pursue charges, Walt. The withdrawals after the revocation were textbook unauthorized access. Crown would have a real case. I sat with that a long moment, then shook my head. He's still my boy, I said. Donna would never forgive me for putting our son in front of a judge in handcuffs. I want the money back. I want him off my accounts. That's the whole of it. So Don built a structured repayment agreement instead, signed and legally binding, in exchange for no criminal complaint. Facing the alternative, Marcus signed every page. It wasn't all there to give back. A good chunk of it had already gone to mortgage arrears and the dealership repossessing the truck. But between the trust Donna had locked away and what Marcus and Brittany were forced to liquidate, the new house gone back to the bank, the truck, Brittany's car, he ended up repaying close to $90,000 on a schedule Don would enforce to the letter. Combined with the trust, it was enough. Enough for the insulin, enough for the cardiologist, enough for the new furnace I'd been putting off, and enough for me to stay exactly where I belonged, in my own bed, in the house Donna and I built our whole life around. That 2-hour drive to Nipigon never happened. In a city the size of Thunder Bay, word travels faster than the Greyhound used to. The story of that dinner at the Prince Arthur was everywhere within a couple of weeks. Marcus's old work buddies heard. Brittany's family heard. The engagement quietly didn't happen after all. I won't pretend I didn't grieve it. He's still my son. I taught him to skate on the rink behind the house every winter until he was 12. About a month after the dinner, a letter came in his handwriting, shaky on the envelope in a way I'd never seen from him. Inside, one page. He didn't ask for anything, just said he was sorry, and that he understood if I never wanted to see him again. I read it twice, then set it in Donna's desk drawer with the old receipts, and the photo of the two of us young, standing in front of the first car we ever owned together. I haven't answered it yet. Some wounds a man has to sit with a while before he knows what to say back, but I kept the letter. That counts for something. The hardest part wasn't Marcus, in the end. It was everyone else. The same relatives who'd looked sideways at Jenny outside church now couldn't do enough for her. Carol started calling every few days. Cousins who hadn't spoken to either of us in years sent cards. I'll be honest, there was a stubborn, proud part of me that wanted to stay cold to all of them. They'd believed Marcus over my Jenny in a heartbeat, tried my good girl in the court of family opinion, and convicted her on a single phone call. But cold doesn't heat an old man's house, and it isn't who Donna raised me to be either. So when Carol came by with a casserole and a long, teary apology, I let her say it, made her a coffee, and then gently told her the truth. I'm glad you see it different now, Carol. I am. But I wish to God you'd ask me, or ask Jenny, before you decided she was the thief. She started to defend herself, then stopped. You're right, Walt. I'm ashamed of myself. I believe you. We're all right. But this family's done treating Jenny like the one to be suspicious of. She's earned better from every one of us. That was the line I drew, gently but firmly, with anyone who came around. Some understood it. Pete became a real friend again, comes by Sundays now to watch the Leafs game with me, which we both still complain about. Others drifted off, uncomfortable around an old man who'd stopped needing their good opinion to feel right with himself. I've found I can live with that just fine. The trust Donna left behind did one more thing I hadn't expected. Don insisted on a fair, written allowance for Jenny's caregiving. Pay for the work, plain and simple. Caregivers get paid, Walt, he told me. There's no shame in it, and your wife put it right into the document herself. For the first time in 2 years, Jenny had a little breathing room, and she did something she'd never let herself dream about before. There's an empty storefront on Red River Road, 2 doors down from the old movie theater that used to be a flower shop years back. She leased it that spring. Nothing fancy, a few tables, a glass case, the kind of butter tarts and cinnamon buns people in this town will drive across the bridge for. But it's hers. The first thing in her whole life that belonged to nobody but her. I go every morning. She sets me up at the corner table by the window, with my coffee black, the way Donna could never talk me out of, and I watch Red River Road wake up while she pulls trays out of the oven behind the counter. Some mornings my chest aches a little, and I take my pills with the coffee and think about how close I came to that shared room in Nipigon. Then I look at my daughter, flower on her apron, humming something her mother used to hum, and I let the ache go. Marcus moved out to Ontario that fall, somewhere south of Sudbury, a job 2 provinces from anything that knew our family's name. He keeps up the repayments, mostly. Don chases him down on the months he doesn't. That's enough for now. He sends a card now and then, my birthday, Christmas, a few shaky lines in an envelope. I read them. I keep them in Donna's drawer with the rest. We don't talk much. The wound's still there, just quieter now. The way old wounds get when you've collected a few of them and learned to carry them without dropping everything else. People ask me sometimes, the ones who know how it all went down, whether I wanted revenge. Whether watching my son fall apart in that ballroom felt good. The honest answer is no, not the way they mean it. Don told me the criminal case would have been solid. I could have ruined him completely, taken every last cent through the courts, made sure the whole province knew exactly what he'd done. There were nights early on when an angry old man wanted exactly that. But somewhere along the way, I figured something out. If I'd done it out of spite, if I'd lied or schemed or torn him down just to feel the satisfaction of it, I'd have become a little bit like him. And I'd have lost the one thing this whole mess never managed to take, the man Donna married. I didn't win because I was louder or crueler or smarter than my own son. An old man with bad eyes and a worse heart is none of those things. I won because the truth was on my side, and because my wife was smarter than every one of us put together, and because I had a daughter who never once stopped showing up. Here's what I'd tell another father if he were sitting across from me at Jenny's corner table. Don't wait. Don't wait to tell the child who shows up that you see her. I spent 2 years letting this family call my Jenny, the one who never amounted to anything, and I let it stand because speaking up felt like stirring a pot I didn't have the strength to stir. That silence cost her more than money ever could. Real love isn't letting your family walk all over you and calling it loyalty. You can love your child and still refuse to let him rob you blind. You can forgive a person and still lock the door behind him. It took me 60 years to learn that. I hope it doesn't take you as long. This morning, the light came through the bakery window, the same way it came through my kitchen. That Tuesday in February, gray and slow and ordinary. The kind of light a man doesn't notice until everything around it has changed. Jenny pulled the first tray of cinnamon buns out of the oven, and the whole shop filled with the smell. The same smell that used to come out of Donna's kitchen on Sunday mornings before church. I was in my corner, both hands wrapped around my coffee. Jenny set a warm bun on a plate and carried it over. Here you go, Dad. I looked up at my daughter, 28 years old, flower on her apron, her mother's smile. Thank you, Jenny. I made sure to say her name. I say it a lot now. I spent too many years letting other people say it like it was something to apologize for. She sat down across from me. Outside, Red River Road was waking up. Pete would be in around 9 for his usual 2 butter tarts. You did good, you know, I told her. All of it. Your mother would be proud of you. I'm proud of you. She had to look out the window for a second. Then she squeezed my hand. A long time ago, a young teller looked up at me across a counter and asked me to step into the back office. And the floor went out from under everything I thought I knew about my own family. And it was. Everything I believed about my children came apart in that little room with the warm printouts on the table. I'm glad it happened the way it did. I truly am. Because when I finally stood back up, past the whispers, past the chandeliers, past my own foolish pride, I knew, for the first time in 60 years, exactly which of my children had been my home all along, and I'll never let her forget that I know it.